Okay, so this month is Pride Month, June, celebrating all the colours under the rainbow, LGBTQ plus terminology. So we thought we'd do our top 5 Pride movies.
Fantastic.
Brilliant. Let's get cracking straight into it.
Let's do it, sir. So let's start ourselves off at number 5, going straight in. Let's see what we've got. Take them away. So I have gone with My Beautiful Laundrette from 1985, Stephen Frears film written by Hanif Qureshi, a great British writer there. It stars Gordon Wanaka and Daniel Day-Lewis. Never heard of him before, have you? This was like quite an early film for Day-Lewis. Obviously, it's 1985. It's a long time ago. It was made during the Thatcher years, so it's obviously got a lot of social commentary. There's a lot of cultural commentary as well, because one of the characters is from a Pakistani background, so he's like British Pakistani, and Daniel Day-Lewis is like white British guy that's into like punk rock and stuff like that. He's a bit of a punk, and they end up looking after Omar's uncle's, I think it's his uncle, his laundrette together, and they have feelings for one another, and it explores that kind of gay relationship. Back in the day, in the 80s, when this was released, that wasn't mainstream whatsoever, so it was quite a brave film to do at the time. But Hanif Qureshi was on fire in those days. He was like the hottest British writer around, so it was critically well received. I think it did a hell of a lot of money at the box office, considering it was quite a low budget British film. It took a lot of money, and that I suppose was one of those things where the money people, the producers in filmmaking, started to rub their hands together and say, we can make some money out of this queer cinema. So, but it obviously opened the door for a lot more stuff like that to be able to come into the mainstream. So it's important for that reason. It's a brilliant film. It's a very touching film, and it was a very important landmark, wasn't it? Really, in sure.
Setting off the path of, not that there was films beforehand, but it was one that really put a marker in the road.
Yeah, it threw it into the mainstream. It shoved it right under people's noses. There's a lot of great British films in the 80s that were great social commentary, because it was such a turbulent era for us. As I say, it was the Thatcher years and stuff, and obviously queer issues were coming to the forefront with things like AIDS and stuff became, a big thing in the 80s. So, this started the conversation for people. It put it, like I say, under their noses and got people talking about it. I'd probably seen it sometime in the early 90s when I was a young teenager and watched it then. I didn't know a lot about that sort of stuff myself then. So it was like a learning issue for me. It was a good way to learn about these kind of issues.
So, I chose Philadelphia.
Okay.
Of course, Tom Hanks' legal drama. Really the first mainstream film to talk about AIDS, feature AIDS as a main plot. Mm-hmm. This was, of course, a massive landmark film as well.
Yes.
Especially Tom Hanks, attached to it. And, this was a huge film. Obviously divisive at the time as well, unfortunately.
Denzel Washington in there as well, another major actor at the time.
Stellar cast, Jonathan Demme directed it, absolutely brilliant. He'd just come off Silence of the Lambs at the time.
Love Jonathan Demme, great filmmaker.
Brilliant. And so it's based around the discrimination case that Hank's character Andy brought against an employer because they fired him due to having AIDS. HIV.
I think
spotted it at work.
Jason Robards plays his boss in it, and he's like, the very famous scenes like, "Are you firing me?" It was really good, really powerful at the time.
Incredibly powerful. It's
I think
really
hard to watch. It
watch.
showed people. Yeah, it is hard to watch because it showed people how devastating a disease AIDS is. How it debilitates you slowly over time, and I think Antonio Banderas played Hanks's partner in it and stuff. So, there's a lot of issues getting covered there. It was a very important film. They had that Bruce Springsteen song for it as well. You know,
Streets of Philadelphia.
That got to number one and stuff as well. So it was a major movie. That major.
It was a major movie and a major turning point, I think. Yeah.
It was, because this is the first time Hollywood is kind of acknowledging all of that sort of stuff. Yeah. So on that grander scale, like you said, massive stars. One of the biggest rock stars doing the song for it. A major director. Powerful stuff, man. Okay, let's move on. Let's have a look at number 4. Take them away. Let's see what we've got there. So I had My Own Private Idaho, which was a smaller independent film. One of the ones that was, I suppose it started the whole new queer cinema revolution in the 90s. It's Gus Van Sant film. He wrote and directed it. Apparently is loosely based on Shakespeare's plays, Henry IV, parts 1 and 2, and Henry V. I never really ever got that from it, but I haven't gone back to it for a long time. It's been ages since I've seen it. So I didn't ever get any of those references from it. It stars River Phoenix, Keanu Reeves. Obviously, everyone knows Keanu Reeves. Matrix, John Wick, the rest of it. I think it had River Phoenix have lived longer, he would have been just as big still now as he was then. He was like a major Hollywood heartthrob actor that was, he was being likened to James Dean and the rest of it. He played the young Indiana Jones in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. He was in things like Stand By Me as a child and, a major actor. And this is one of his best performances. It's about two, I think they're described as street hustlers, what we would call over here in the UK, rent boys. Yeah. I'm not even sure if that's the correct terminology nowadays, but that's certainly what they would have been referred to as, basically male prostitutes. And it's a road movie. They go from wherever they're living. I think it's like Portland, Oregon, and they take a road trip and they end up going to Idaho, where River Phoenix character is from. And again, like I say, it was an important film in terms of new queer cinema, as they titled it afterwards. That kind of, came into the forefront in the 90s. I suppose Philadelphia would be considered as part of all that as well, because it's covering these topics. Again, we're using major Hollywood stars to tell us a story that is essentially a queer story.
Yeah, so I've gone for Dream Boy.
Okay.
From 2008. It's a Southern Gothic drama directed by James Bolton. It's basically about two gay teenagers who fall in love in the rural South in the late 70s. Mm-hmm. It's Stephen Bender and Max Roig. It's a very independent film. It's not very well known.
No, I've never seen it.
I think it's probably the most underrated of these kind of films. In my opinion, it really touched me. Because it's, it is just these two young kids who kind of find each other and start to develop feelings for each other. Yeah. And it is that near perfect depiction of what young love is, that they are so inarticulate. They don't know what it is. They can't quite.
First time.
Yeah. They just don't understand it at all. Mm-hmm. And they're fumbling their way through it all. Yeah. And it's so sweet to see and so real, you feel it. And it's really nice and it's really beautiful. It's ultimately very tragic.
A lot of love stories are. Look at Romeo and Juliet. It's like the ultimate tragic love story. Classic. Exactly.
But but it's very underrated and very much worth watching if you can find it out there anywhere. I don't know where you'd find it, but I'm sure it's up on one of the platforms.
Cool. Okay, thanks for that. Brilliant. Okay, let's have a look at number 3, what we had there for our number 3 choices. Take them away. So I've got Brokeback Mountain, very famous film. Everybody knows it. 2005, Ang Lee, starring Heath Ledger and Jake Gyllenhaal as two guys that go and basically shepherd on a mountain in Montana or Colorado. I can't remember where it is exactly. Out there, and they end up, developing feelings for each other, and having I suppose what you describe as a fling up there on the mountain together. But, then after the job's over, they both go off and they both get married to women and live a straight life. But all these years they harbor these feelings for one another, and they manage to meet up and go fishing every once a year or whatever it is. And, it goes from there. And really it's a film about regret and about, not taking the opportunity, not being true to your feelings. It's a tragic love story again. It's a love story where love does not conquer all. In fact, it's the actual, it's the thing in their lives that, destroys them in a way, internally, emotionally. And one of the best love stories I've ever seen in my life. I thought it was really well rendered. It's, again, a very important film because, we talk about queer cinema on the rise in the 80s, then coming into its own with new queer cinema in the 90s, but we go all the way to 2005, and a film like this comes out and it's still like majorly attacked by homophobic people, because of the subject matter. But personally speaking, as a straight man watching a film like this, which is a love story, I think it's important for straight men to watch and to sort of like get over themselves a bit and just understand that love does not choose a sexuality. Love is love. And, again, brave on the part of the actors. It's funny in a way. It's very similar to My Own Private Idaho in that we've got Heath Ledger there in the main role and Jake Gyllenhaal, and poor old Heath Ledger died young. But again, it was an incredibly brave thing for both of those actors to take on. Because I don't think either of them are gay. They're both straight men, but, playing these roles, and they're obviously going to be attacked for it by, these idiots, these homophobes and stuff. But they just said, bigots. Fuck that. Yeah, basically, fuck these bigots. This is a beautiful and wonderfully rendered by Ang Lee love story. And, they did it, and it's legendary now, I think still, even all these years later, 16 years later, it's probably very difficult for a lot of men to, take on that film and watch it without, without their own prejudices getting in the way.
There's plenty of, I see it quite a lot, there's plenty of people who just can't get over their own masculinity to watch it for some bizarre reason, and it makes no sense because it is literally just a love story like any other.
Yeah. And a powerful one at that.
Very powerful, brilliant film, absolutely brilliant. Number 3, I've got Moonlight, which of course won at the Oscars a couple of years ago.
Amazing.
Fantastic piece, Barry Jenkins. Explores childhood, adolescence, and early adult life. It's a film about the growth of a man and his experiences in everything. It's not just about his sexuality. It's that's part of it, but also his identity.
Sure.
And other things. Just
I think there's a racial element as well to Moonlight in that in Western culture the so-called black community is infamously more homophobic.
Absolutely.
Culturally. So in a sense, Moonlight is kind of like doing the same job as Brokeback Mountain, but for more specifically for from a black perspective, which again, I think is an important ground for these kind of films to cover, because it's kind of like saying, well, look, gay blokes are not just white cowboys. No. It's not like a YMCA here. There's like, they're in all echelons of society: male, female, black, white, yellow, brown, whatever. The multicolored flag that's what it represents.
It absolutely it tackled black masculinity. That was a real core theme of it, and it is something. It's something that that I have a problem with. Rap music with still today, because it's so filled homophobic and toxic and misogynistic stuff that you just go in.
Some of it is, yeah.
And I get it. Well, I say get it, but there's there's a thing, when you listen to music 30 years ago and rap music, where it's like it's a product of its time, but at this point in time, for it still to be kind of accepted in that kind of genre of music, which is predominantly black artists,
it perpetuates that standpoint and that message that for some reason this is not okay, which is ridiculous, really.
Which was so refreshing when with Lil Nas, the gay rapper, coming out
and just takes it the exact opposite way.
Yeah, love it.
That's what you get, don't you? When there's this kind of thing out there, and it's kind of like anti-gay in any way, you're going to get that kind of reaction to it. And good on him. Yeah, good on him. Why not?
But yeah, beautiful, brilliant film, Moonlight.
Yeah. Gorgeous looking film, really, really nicely shot.
Is, yeah,
and great acting as well, of course. Well, there we go. Okay, let's get down to our number 2 picks. Let's take the screens away. So, number 2, I've got Blue is the Warmest Color, 2013, which stars Lea Seydoux and Adele Exarchopoulos. Am I saying this right? I'm not doing very well with my pronunciations this week. But again, this is obviously a film that's coming from a lesbian standpoint. There's a young schoolgirl. One day she's walking past this other girl she sees with blue hair, and she's kind of like instantly attracted to her, I suppose, and they end up meeting and they do fall in love. And it's about, a film about discovery, a film about discovering your sexuality. Also a coming of age film, a film about growing up and dealing with peer pressure and dealing with society's views on these kind of issues at the same time as trying to deal with your own emotions and understand them. Again, beautifully shot, very poetic film, great acting from the 2 leads there. Fantastic stuff.
Brilliant stuff. Absolutely brilliant. Number 2, I've gone with Call Me By Your Name, which is Luca Guadagnino's film with Armie Hammer and Timothée Chalamet, which is, as we've said before, one of my favourite young actors of the day at the moment. Not much for Armie Hammer, but he's okay in this. But it's a great film, 1983, Northern Italy. It's a coming-of-age romantic drama. And it's just a really beautiful piece about first love. It's very real. It's very sensual. One of the most real and erotic sex scenes in any of these films. Right. And a very interesting scene with a peach. I'll say no more on that one.
Okay. Sounds ominous. It sounds a bit dodgy, a bit like if you say the butter scene from Last Tango in Paris makes people go, ooh.
Well, yeah, basically it's kind of in the picture. But it's nice, it's interesting, it's intimate,
right,
and artistic, and I think it shows a change in the direction of queer cinema now, in terms of the there's no limits in terms of this is stuff that wouldn't have been tried or accepted.
My Beautiful Laundrette is not so explicit.
Now it's
cocks out,
goes.
Cocks rocks.
That's it. And it's it's really nice film.
I haven't seen this one myself. As I've said to you many times before, I think it's because of Armie Hammer in it. I just don't really like the guy very much, but I do like Chalamet. He's a good little actor, and I will get around to watching it at some point just to see what it's all about. It does get applauded, by those that know. You've spoke very highly of it, so it's obviously one to watch, but I just have to get over my dislike of Armie Hammer and just get on with it. Am I right in assuming it's like there's because obviously there's a bit of an age difference there? Is this about like a younger person falling for an older guy? Yeah,
it's like it is a kind of younger guy falling for an older guy, which is quite
a thing in itself, I suppose. Yeah.
In the gay community, really.
But, right. Okay, great. That leads us to our number 1 choices. In the number 1 slot, let's reveal what we had there. Take them away. Okay, so I had Portrait of a Lady on Fire, 2019 film, written and directed by Celine Sciamma, French film, historical romantic drama about two women. One of them is an aristocrat, and she has her portrait commissioned to be painted, and the artist that arrives on this small island to paint her, they end up falling in love, basically. There's a lot more to it than that. But they end up falling in love and having a brief relationship over this time whilst she's painting the painting of her. But it is a gay film. It's a queer film about, lesbian love. But for me, this film was about so much more as well. It works on so many levels. And when I watched it, I felt like I was watching some of the great French films from the 80s. You had a really good turn of films there. In the 80s, there were like French historical dramas, period dramas. And this, to me, felt like that standard. It was so well shot, so well acted, beautiful music, really great scenes, a story that kept you gripped and you wanted to know how it was going to transpire, whether they were going to end up together or not, all of that great stuff that comes from any good love story. But this is a very fresh film. It's only a couple of years old, and I cannot recommend this one highly enough to anybody who loves good films. You've got to check out Portrait of a Lady on Fire. It's, personally speaking, I mean, the art element for me, I think, was like a bit of a pull for it, the fact that she's painting her and stuff. But beyond that, I love it. I just loved it. I was like transfixed for a couple of hours watching it. It was just amazing. So do try and get to see it. It's an amazing film.
This is the one I haven't seen. I really need to check out. It's on my list of...
it's a quality film. I know you'll enjoy it because it's such good quality. It points out that these kind of homosexual relationships have lasted throughout time, all the way back. It's not a new thing, everybody.
That's
the
it.
only thing that's new about it is that we can talk about it now, and we can accept it, and we can
absolutely
make films about
LGBTQ plus. There is a large range and spectrum throughout history. It's
it goes back. It's showing
important
that these kind of relationships were so much more taboo in the past. So it sort of covers that kind of ground as well, where forbidden love.
Yeah.
So it's a great one to watch, though. Absolutely gorgeous looking film. So well made.
So in the number one spot, I've gone for Uncle Frank. I've just done a film and 5 on this, which has just gone up on the YouTube channel. So go and check that out. Link in the description below. That gives you all my full thoughts on it. But very briefly, it's a really wonderful film, 1973, with it's set in a southern hometown. Paul Bettany and Sophia Lillis, and she plays a young girl who goes off to university in New York at the kind of behest of her Uncle Frank, who encourages her. She finds out Uncle Frank is gay, but he's been hiding it from his family all these years. Mm-hmm. Suddenly, her granddad and Uncle Frank's dad dies, and they've got to go back for the funeral, and it becomes a road movie where it's a road of discovery.
Which all road movies should be.
Absolutely. Beautiful film, really beautiful film, really great performance, Paul Bettany. Love him. It's on Amazon Prime. Go check it out, and check out the Film and 5 review for even more delectable details.
It's a really good review you've done there, mate, and it just made me want to see the film even more, because I still haven't seen this one, and you've told me about it before and said it was a good laugh above all things.
Yeah,
and we do enjoy having a good laugh. So, I'll be checking it out. Great review there, and that's it. That's our top 5 queer films, pride films, whatever you want to call them. What do you think? What are your top 5 pride films? You let us know in the comments below.
That's it for this video. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. And remember to like, share and subscribe right here on YouTube. For more film reviews and articles, why not check out our website, moremovies.co.uk. And join us on social media at More Movies For You. That's across the board. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, you know the score. If you want to support us, you can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com. Link in the description down below. And for more filmtastic content, click on one of the buttons on screen now.